Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. This is the live stream I do a couple of times a week, where it's basically just a Q&A session. You guys get to ask me questions, and I will do my best to answer and help you out. This is episode 124 of Honest HR Nitrous. This is called Why Most Job Seekers Fail and How You Can Avoid It. And as always, a shout out goes out to my YouTube channel members. So you guys are awesome. Membership has its privileges. And also to my super thanks donors, my Patreons, and to you, my viewers and participants. Thank you for being here. So, wow, that was a quick intro. Usually it takes me longer than that to do this. And Ocean Sound is here saying all the stuff that Ocean Sound usually says. Get in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions to do with careers, job search, resumes, interviews, networking, informational interviews, direct outreach, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm here to talk about. And that sort of thing. Also, as a reminder, check out my courses. If you want to go deeper with me in terms of how to get hired, check out that course, my Get Hired course. And that basically is tailored for introverts. If you are an introvert like me, you're looking to learn how to get hired on the posted job market. You're looking to learn how to get hired on the hidden job market, where 80% of the jobs are. If this is news to you, don't take my word for it. Go and do your own research. Find out for yourself. You know, most jobs are not posted. You can get those jobs. They're freely available, but you do not get them using the same methodology that you use to get a posted job, nor do you go through recruiters. Recruiters deal with posted jobs. They do not deal with hidden jobs. That's just the nature of their role. So, yeah, learn all about that stuff. And later, what we can do is, if you don't believe me on stuff like this, nor do I ask you to, we can ask ChatGPT together and see what it says. You can see right there. There's a certainly more objective source than just me, and that might help convince you. But a lot of people have noticed this. It's an open secret. Ocean Sound, I see you are an astrologer testing your skills. Okay, great. Kyle Quinn says hello. Hello to Kyle. There are 13 people here, or 12 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know what you're struggling with, what you're wondering about when it comes to job search or careers, and we can certainly talk about it. I'm here purely to answer your own questions. I'm not here to talk at you with an agenda of my own. I'm here just to answer your questions. So get in the chat and let me know what I can help you with. Andy is here. Hello, Andy is doing that thing. A round of applause. Sound the trumpets, fire the cannons. I have arrived. That kind of thing. It's always good. My earlier session that wrapped up about 15 minutes ago was a bit intense. I was having some problems keeping up with the feed, and I'm hoping to improve on that this time. It was whack. Am I allowed to say that? It was wiggity whack. McAMC says, what are your thoughts on Coursera to build skills? Well, AMC, if you can look on your screen, if you can open your eyes, and you can see that on the screen I'm advertising 3 courses of my own that are not on Coursera, you can probably guess what I would say as an answer to that question. So get in the chat. We got 11 people here. Let me know if you have actual questions to do with job search, careers, any of that kind of stuff, and we can get into it. Judging by the comments on my channel, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about this stuff. You had no time in between shows even to have lunch. Yeah, because it's where I am, it's not lunchtime, so I don't need to have lunch. This is something I do to fill my afternoons on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Andy says, I am 53 with decades of experience with only 2 jobs in my entire career and still can't get an interview. Is it my age? That's unanswerable, Andy. I don't know what your situation is, but playing the odds, I would say no. No, it isn't. If you're asking about ageism, yes, it does exist. It exists both ways. So, you have ageism against young people and you have ageism against old people. That does exist. However, that is not as prominent as, perhaps the amount of times it gets mentioned. You know what I mean? So it's like the thing is, if you've only had a couple of jobs in your career and you're 53, I don't know anything about you, but playing the odds, I would suspect it's because job search has changed in the last 10, 20 years. The way you would get a job in the year 2000 is not the way you get a job now. The big thing that's changed in the last 5 years is obviously AI, having things like the chat bots, like the generative AI, like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, all those kind of things. Because they're here, they've really changed job search in the posted job market. The way that you would go about applying for posted jobs now, it's different. See, what you would do in the past is, it would be a common thing to have a sort of master resume that you maybe go to a resume writer and they write your resume, or you write it yourself, and you work on it and refine it, and then you get it to where this really summarizes you, right? And then you use that document, you send it to all the jobs you apply for, right? That was a common thing. It wasn't the only thing people did, but that was a common thing. And sometimes people would customize your resume, but it was a very labor intensive process, and it was more of a rare thing that you would customize your resume to apply for a job. So because you were in the internet age, so it's very easy to apply for jobs, but it was still very labor intensive to customize them, right? So even 5 years ago, people were still kind of there. However, right now, it's a little bit different. What more people are doing, more and more, is they're using generative AI like ChatGPT and Grok and all those to write a custom version of your resume that's tailored to each job you apply to, right? And the reason they do that is because that's far more effective than sending in a sort of default master resume, one size fits all, when you apply for jobs. So that's the big thing that's changed. If you get this system down with ChatGPT, you can apply for nearly the same amount of jobs that you would have been able to apply for in a day, like hundreds. But this time you're doing it with customized resumes. And the same thing applies to cover letters. It writes your cover letter for you based on the guidelines, based on what you want to say. It rephrases it. It matches keywords, key phrases, things like that, lingo. So that's one of the big changes that's happened recently in terms of job search. So if you're not getting interviews, it could be because of that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your situation is. Right? So that would be where I'd look first to figure out what you need to do, or what maybe, if any changes need to be made, it should be in that area. Kyle Quinn says, yesterday I was talking to a recruiter that switched up the job location that was different from the one I'd seen on the job description. It was kind of frustrating. Yeah, I can imagine if they tell you the job is in, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then you find out the next day it's in Boise, Idaho, or Billings, Montana, my 2 favorite places. That would be frustrating. It kind of changes the game a bit. Now you might not want the job or something, So I can see how that would be frustrating. John says, what can you advise for people trying to apply internationally? I'm also trying to apply abroad and I can't even get one call. I'm not an expert in that. So there are other people that specialize in like international hiring and stuff like that. It really depends on, as I understand it, your home country and then your host country. So like where you are and where you're going to, because once again, it's not one size fits all. Each country has their own wants, wills, and needs and all this kind of stuff of how you do it. But, you know, a big thing for me, when you hire, you know, people in another country, or you hire immigrants, people that have just arrived and they're looking for their job, the big challenge is that, you know, if you want to validate their credentials, like their, you know, educational qualifications or their experience, it's hard because they might give you, oh, here's my university degree. And it's like, it's in another language that you don't understand. You don't really know what the reputation of that school is or their qualification, like, you know, the nature of that qualification, what that qualification encompasses. Like, does that even cover the stuff that would be in the maybe the home country version of that? Like, you know, so that was my problem. You know, you really couldn't qualify these things. So I worked for a company and I was actually in charge of that. And what we did was we would hire people, but we would offer them like less money because we're taking a risk. And what we found was that some people, you know, they worked out really well. Like they were fully qualified. They were very good employees and there were no issues. But a lot of times we also found that you would get duds. You get people that they claim they were qualified, but they really weren't. You know, they claimed they had experience, but as evidenced by their performance on the job, it really felt like they didn't have any experience, you know. So that was the risk that we ran. And, you know, so that's why we did it, because we didn't have a very good solution for that kind of thing. Now, in terms of getting hired, I'm not sure. Like, it's not my area of expertise, so I can't really give you any very specific advice for that. You should have resources in your home country. Like you should have like a government employment center of some kind in some way, shape, or form that can get you started on that. So go and talk to them and they should be able to point you in the right direction. And then I believe there's other resources online, like other YouTubers and other, you know, things online, articles and stuff that are more tailored to the specific issues of getting hired internationally. Meadow Grewer says, customizing the master CV is essential for particular opportunities, cover letters as well. Absolutely, yes. Plus another personal message from the hiring manager. Well, I would say that's essential, but that's a common thing, yeah. Asharma has joined as a member. Thank you, Asharma. You're awesome. Membership has the privileges. So you get priority for this chat anyway, if you have anything I can help you with. Ocean Sound says, don't you have to ask them how they operate in terms of who to communicate or when and how you can speak with them, depending on them to come around who know when is not good, right? Sorry, Ocean Sound, you lost me on that one. You need to rephrase your question so that I can understand. Just rephrase it, and I'll be happy to take a crack at that. Asharma says, good afternoon, and thank you for hosting this Q&A. My background, senior business analyst, both commercial and federal clients. Scrum Master / Agile for software development, however, had to leave. I guess we'll be getting more of that in a moment. I had to leave corporate world for family / parents. In the meantime, I've done Amazon FBA. I'm not sure what that is, FBA. Digital marketing, copywriting work for a few local businesses. I have self-taught AI tools, building low-code APIs and working. Projects on GitHub. I need to get back into the job market. How do I transcend the gaps and still be considered a viable candidate? Thanks. Okay, let me revise this here. Senior business analyst, Scrum, Agile, software development, corporate world. Had to leave the corporate world. In the meantime, I've done Amazon, digital marketing, copyright work, self-taught AI tools, building low code and working projects on GitHub. I need to get back to the job market. How do I transcend the gaps and still be considered a viable candidate? Okay, so IT related, right? That's what it seems like. So here's the deal. My impression is that the IT industry is going through a little bit of contraction at the moment. I'm sure you're aware of that. And so that's going to be a complication. Now, what I suspect about that industry right now is the way that it usually works for all industries, which is that when they're contracting, there's always going to be some hiring because they're losing people through attrition. People retire, people leave, like that. All that still happens, so they have to replace people. So hiring's down. What usually happens is that you get there's some exceptions to this, but usually you get the post-to-job market sort of drying up. And you do get some hiring. Usually it's done on the hidden job market. Okay, not always, but usually it is. So I believe that's what's happening in the IT world because they're hiring people at all levels, right? And usually the higher we go, the more it's hidden, right? Once you get to middle management, that's usually where posted jobs stop, So anything in the middle and high up is all going to be exclusively hidden job market, and some of the lower stuff will be hidden job market too. So it's a completely different skill set to get hired for those. You're not like looking through websites like Indeed and LinkedIn to find job postings. Instead, what you're doing is you're going to be reaching out to organizations. You're going to be talking, connecting with the right people, talking to the decision makers. So hiring managers and up, okay? And the idea is that, you see, there's a ton of people out there that have the technical skills, right? There's an overabundance, an oversupply of people that have the skills, right? And and it's outstripping demand, right? So the tiebreaker for a lot of IT stuff, not all of them, but a lot of them, is the soft skills. Because in IT, you have a lot of people with the technical chops, okay? But what you don't have a lot of is people that are awesome to work with, okay? So that can be the tiebreaker, okay? The other thing that you don't have a lot of is you don't have a lot of people that almost have that sort of entrepreneur kind of mentality where they don't always operate within a system. They go outside of the system, right? Entrepreneurship, by the way, is outside the system. What do they tell you when you're a kid? What do? You go and you get a job, right? They don't say you go and you start a company, right? They say, no, you go and you get a job, right? Getting a job is the establishment thing to do, the default thing to do, right? So entrepreneurship by its nature is outside the system, right? You're outside the rules. You're not getting a job. You're creating your own job, right? So you almost have to think like that a bit. You have to take initiative. And even though a company hasn't posted anything, you're still going to reach out to the company anyway, right? Because the reality is that a lot of the hiring they're doing is on the hidden market. That means that they're not posting the job because they don't need to post the job. They don't have a problem where they can't find people that would want to do this, so they don't need to post it publicly. That's why the posted jobs dry up first, even though there's a lot of hiring going on behind the scenes, right? So you play that game. So you learn about how to reach out to organizations and do something called direct outreach, okay? Now, I find that a lot of younger people especially, because they've never heard of this before, they naturally think that I'm making this up and that I'm lying to them and that it's not real. So rather than me talk all about it, let's, what I can do live is I can access things like ChatGPT and I can show you it together. So, okay, so what is the hidden job market and how many jobs are in the hidden job market as opposed to the posted job market? Now, I'm doing this for you live so that you can see that this information is not coming from me. I'm not making it up. This is all valid. Okay? It's not a conspiracy. This is all how it works. Okay, so I'll make this bigger. The hidden job market refers to job opportunities that are not advertised publicly. These positions are often filled through internal networks, referrals, and word of mouth. Companies may choose not to post these jobs for various reasons, such as waiting to avoid the large volume of applicants, preferring to hire internally, or relying on trusted referrals. Okay, blah, 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 blah. In contrast, the posted job market consists of jobs that are advertised on job boards, company websites, social media, or recruitment platforms. These positions are widely accessible to the public. So if you see a job posting, that's the posted job market. Okay. There is no job posting for the job, but there's still a job. That's the hidden job market. Okay. Size of the hidden job market. 70 to 80% of jobs are part of the hidden job market. 20 to 30% of jobs are typically posted publicly. Okay. You don't have to take this from me. And if you still don't believe this, go out and do further research. Okay. I'm not asking you to trust me or take me on my word or anything. Okay, this is real. Every job I've gotten in nearly 20 years has been on the hidden job market, including the job to be a CEO. Okay, so the hidden job market is much larger than the post job market. Okay, let's go further. So how do I access the hidden job market? Okay, requires a lot more proactive, strategic approach than simply applying to publicly posted job listings. Okay, so you got to do more than just apply for jobs. Number one, networking. Okay, now this talks about reaching out to your existing network. That's not really applicable or prominent in my experience. Okay. If you know 1,000 people, great, I suppose you could do this. But most people don't, and that isn't a requirement of doing this, by the way. Attend industry events. This is the extrovert's guide to doing this, by the way. Use LinkedIn strategically. So follow companies you're interested in, engage with content in your field. Yeah, that's very indirect. So once again, that's not ideal. Here we go. This is something that is of value. Informational interviews. Reach out to people in your industry for casual, non-job search related chats. Okay, so you can get informational interviews. If you don't know what an informational interview is, it's an interview where you get information. It has nothing to do with getting a job. It's where you sit down with somebody and you say, listen, I would love to get your expert opinion on some questions to do with this industry or something like that. Okay. So that's a whole topic in itself. It's one of the more labor intensive ways of accessing the hidden job market. There are a lot more efficient ways of doing it, but this is a path if you want to do it. Okay, here we go. Targeted outreach to companies. Now, I include this in networking because networking is just people talking to other people. That's all it is. So this is part of that. So even if a company isn't advertising a job, they may still be open to hiring if you make they usually are open to hiring if you make a strong case for why you're a good fit. Research companies are interested in, not necessary. Cold emailing, no, that's not how you do it. Leverage company talent pools, not really, no. Yeah, so it's good that it lists this, but these methods are not good. If you take my course, by the way, I talk to you about how to do this on LinkedIn, where you connect with people on LinkedIn strategically, and then you message them, and then you either ask for informational interviews, which we were talking about a moment ago, or the even simpler way is just simply send them a pitch. And the pitch consists of about 3 sentences where you say, hello, my name is X. I'm fully qualified, whatever you do. I solve this problem. If ever you're looking for someone like that to join your team, let me know, because I'd love to work for you. I live close by, and I know you guys do great work in this area. Thanks, and have a great day. Right? And the idea is that if they do have a job that they haven't posted that they're trying to fill, you jump in at the front of the line. That's the idea. If you are what they're looking for, why does it have to go any further? They'll bring you down. They'll see if you're the right person. And it's like, hey, if you are, let's get this filled and let's get on with our lives. That's usually how it works. Right? So we were talking about this business. Referrals, yeah, you could do it, I suppose. I don't recommend that unless you know a ton of people that are in prominent positions. You can do that. I wouldn't do this personally. A lot of introverts are not really into this stuff. This is a very indirect way. It can work, but it's very indirect and it's very labor intensive. And this is flat out because those people are not down with the hidden job market. They think they are, and they tell you they are, but they're not. Okay, so same with this. I mean, these are very indirect ways of accessing it. I would ignore these. Yeah, okay. So the basic answer for this is networking. There are a variety of different activities within networking, including a lot of stuff that introverts can be really good at. So there you go. Okay, so I went into this because I was answering a question from A. Sharma about how you can get back into the IT industry, right? Now, in IT, there's a window of opportunity, just like there is in the world of engineering, because a lot of IT people and a lot of engineers have very underdeveloped social skills on average. There's always exceptions, and there's a lot of ones that people in those professions that are amazing at social skills and a lot of the soft skills, but there's a lot of people that have a real problem with this. And if that's you, you can develop these. If it's not you, and you're awesome as a person, you make a great first impression, and you know how to persuade people and things like this. If you already know all that stuff, that's your secret weapon here, because the posted jobs will probably have dried up, but there's still stuff going on the hidden job market, and that's what you tap to get jobs in the economic climate that we have now. Okay, like in IT, it's going through that bust cycle right now. Okay, now if you want the details on this, I've got some. It's too much for me to get into here live off the cuff. Okay, so I do have some resources. First of all, linked in the description box below this live stream, I have a link to a video I did called How Successful People Get Jobs. It's a free video on my YouTube channel. Check it out. That shows you how you can do direct outreach if you're an introvert. It's simply using Google Maps to locate all the employers around you that would hire someone like you. And then you use LinkedIn to see inside of those organizations down to the individuals and the decision makers. It's also the means to be able to reach out and connect with them and send them messages, right? That's the idea. So this is exactly the method I use to build up my consulting business, which is my day job. And, I wholeheartedly recommend it. So check that out. Now, if you want to go deeper with me, check out that course, because all the details of exactly how to do it, step by step, a couple of different methods, they're all in that course. So check that out. That's where that stuff is, and that can help you. Okay? Okay. Ocean Sound says, internationally seeking a job maybe should ask how they operate in terms of when and how they wish to contact you. Okay. Who's they? I don't understand. Like the employers? Have you connected with employers? I don't really understand the situation, so you're going to have to explain Is that a follow-up? Okay, so that's a follow-up to an earlier thing. Yeah, like I still don't understand who them is that you're referring to. If they're employers, how are you connected with them? Because how you communicate with them is probably going to be pretty damn dependent on how you've already connected with them. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm wondering what your situation is. Kyle Quinn says, I have about a 10-month work gap on my resume, and I feel like it affects my ability to obtain interviews. How do I work around that? There are several ways you can work around it. So the short version is one option, if you're dealing with a recruiter, if you're going for posted jobs and you're dealing with recruiters in job interviews and things like this, one method is to go out right now and sign up for some free online courses, okay, that make sense for you to take. And your story is basically that, well, it wasn't a work gap. I went back to school. I identified some gaps in my skill set. I wanted to take care of those. And I've been taking some online classes. And now that I'm done, I'm looking to rejoin the workforce. And so it's all part of a plan. So there's no question marks there about the work gap. It's not because there's something really wrong with me. It's not because I'm unemployable. Like, you don't say this, but that's what you're putting their mind at ease for, right? Now, you're not lying because you're actually taking online courses, so you don't have to, it isn't really much of an ethical kind of issue because you're doing it, right? You're just not disclosing, all the details on the time frame. So that's one way you could try. Now, that does work sometimes. There are some recruiters where if you just tell the truth and explain, like, I've been looking for work and, or I took some time off and then I looked for work or something like that, then they'll just be like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, they won't regard it as a major risk factor. I'd say they'd be the minority of recruiters, but there are a few that will, you can just be honest with, and it won't be the end of the world. They'll be okay with that. And then the elephant in the room is that you get hired through the hidden job market. You do the thing that I just mentioned like 2 minutes ago. It's in that video linked in the description box of this live stream, called How Successful People Get Jobs. And you use that method of getting hired, right? You're going after hidden jobs that are not posted, and you're using methods like direct outreach to do it. Okay, so it's completely different to applying for jobs. Requires different skills. Okay, so you can learn about that. I can't explain all of that in here, but that's the elephant in the room. That's how you would get hired. That's how everybody would get hired anyway. That's where 80% of jobs are, in the hidden job market. So, you know what I mean? They don't care about work gaps because you're not getting hired based on your resume. You're getting hired based on how awesome you are to talk to, and they can see that you know your stuff, and they can see that they would know they'd like to work with you, right? And you're the only one that showed up. You've showed genuine passion and interest reaching out to them, right? So that's the strength that you get hired. It's a great equalizer for anybody with a work gap, anybody changing careers, any other sort of thing like that maybe you're a generalist, anything that doesn't fit into a neat little pigeonhole that are the types of people that recruiters like to cater to. Okay, so check out that. Learn all you can about that, and that's the way to overcome that for sure. Ocean Sound. This is a Q&A session where I answer questions about job search and careers and business. It's not a Q&A about me personally, okay? You keep asking personal questions about me. That's not why I'm here, and that's not of interest to anyone else, okay? So if you're going to be here and you're going to keep chiming in with stuff, I'm not going to respond to probing personal questions about my personality or anything like that. Okay. So, I'm not sure why you would even give a rat's ass about stuff about me personally. You know what I mean? H19 says, hi, I'm going to be doing some qualifications that are not directly related to my current role. Do I or do I not make this known on my LinkedIn profile? I don't want to hinder any future opportunities at my current role as I'm looking to qualify and obtain this opportunity from my current employer. That's a tough one. I mean, I would say do it, but then again, some factors are, do you know if your employer is actively checking out, like, you know, your web footprint, whatever you call it, like, you know, your social media accounts, and do they care about that? You know what I mean? Like, if there's precedent with this employer that they've been like almost spying on their employees, and then, you know, someone says something on Facebook that they don't like, and then they fire the employer. Like has there been cases of that? If so, then obviously it's going to pay to be discreet about these things. You know, you can rig your LinkedIn profile so that, you know, people can't see your profile publicly. They have to be connected to you to do that. And then you can ensure that, you know, you only give permission to people that you know, and like all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like that is a possibility. Or you could just play it, like if you're really worried about it, you could just play it safe and leave it off, right? You don't necessarily have to put it all on your LinkedIn profile. You could be applying for jobs while you're currently employed, and then you're sending them a resume that has all your, you know, your full story on it, right? So that gets out to the people that, you know, you want to get it to, but yet it's not discoverable publicly. I mean, some form of that is probably in order, depending on the details of how your employer behaves, you know? You know, like, is it the type of place where, like, you know, you work in a plumbing company and you're taking courses on like lace embroiderment or something like that? Are they going to come to you and say, like, what's this lace embroiderment thing you're doing? You know, we don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like, is it that kind of place? Is it a place where if you say, oh, I don't know, I'm just interested in lace embroiderment on the side as a hobby. I've always been interested. I want to learn more about it. They'll have a problem with that. You know what I mean? So if the answer is yes, then I would say, like, you know, keep it off LinkedIn. If the answer is no, that's going too far, I'd say it's should be harmless, you know, under all normal circumstances. That's kind of my take on that. It depends on the details, unfortunately. And you're in the best position. You're certainly in a better position than I am to know what might be appropriate with them. MM says, does countrywide job creation really matter? I'm reading reports that there is more unemployed than jobs available. Does that mean more people should try to go into business for themselves? Well, there's a couple of points there. When you say, does it really matter? I don't know. I know it's a thing that a lot of politicians say, and it may not necessarily be connected to like the reality of what they're doing or what's going on. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's like all BS and it never matters. Sometimes they do things, whether it's permanent or not, you know, is another thing. Like, but the problem is with that stuff, it's all politics. It's all political. So, for example, you could say we're creating jobs, but they're creating really crappy minimum wage jobs or part-time jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, the reality is not what you would read into it and assume by that statement. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm not a political commentator. I don't get into that stuff. So, you know, that's neither here nor there. And that's just a personal impression. You're reading reports that there are more unemployed than jobs available. That's always going to be the case. There's always going to be a certain percentage of unemployed. Now, I'm not an expert in that. They have people that study that. There's a type of unemployment that's, I forget the name of it, but it's like cyclical or transition unemployment. It means people that are between jobs. They're literally between jobs. They're going to find a job, but just right at the moment they've quit one job, or one job is, maybe they got laid off or something, and it's taking them a certain amount of time to get their next job lined up, right? So that's normal. That's a normal thing. If you get fired one day, do you have a job the next day? No, you don't. Even if you're highly competent, there's that type of unemployment. There's another type of unemployment where people are like chronically unemployed. They're out of work more or less permanently, and they just can't find any job long term. And that's a whole other thing. There's a lot of causes of that, and I'm not an expert on it, so I don't want to comment on it. But yeah, there's a certain amount of unemployment. Now, one possibility is for people to become self-employed. That is a thing. I talk about that regularly on this channel. There's a lot less demand for me talking about that stuff, even though that's kind of more my core competency. But that is a thing, and I encourage it. But the thing is usually it's harder to work for yourself than it is to work for an employer, right? So it's not really an alternative to getting a job in the sense of like difficulty, you know what I'm saying? It requires a very special skill set. It also requires a very special attitude. You have to have a bit of rebelliousness. You have to be okay going against the crowd, like not following the herd, this kind of stuff. You have to have some basic understanding of business, what it is. And incidentally, that's why I created that course, because I encourage people to learn this stuff. Business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's what it is. Knowing that is pretty useful on multiple different levels. So, entrepreneurship is one reason why you might want to learn that, right? So it's a partial solution, and in this day and age, it's never been easier than it is right now to become self-employed. We got a lot of great resources at our fingertips. YouTube is one of them. I'm reaching you, like I'm reaching people all over the world, from my office, like just for free, basically. That wasn't available like 20 years ago or whatever. So, you know what I mean? Like, it is a partial solution, but it's not the entire solution. And a lot of people just don't have the knowledge to be able to know what to do. So what do you do, A. Sharma says, any resume writing company or service, including AI resume writing, you recommend? Thanks. No, I don't. I don't recommend somebody does it for you. You do it yourself because you're the best person to do it. What you do, okay, is like here, look. Excuse me. Oh, I feel another coughing fit coming on. So forgive me if I burst into a frenzy here. Let's see. Okay. Good God. Okay, so here's ChatGPT. Here's what you do, okay? Now go online and find a job posting, okay? The job that you want to apply for, okay? And you copy the entire text of that job posting, okay? And you paste it here. And you say, here's a job posting I'd like to apply for. And then you paste it, like right here into this box, okay? And then it says, okay. And then the second thing you do, you say, here is my resume. And it's the master version of your resume that has everything on it that you've done and that you'd ever say. All your accomplishments, all the duties for all your jobs, right? Okay, so you paste that in again. And you say, this is my master resume. And it says, okay. And then you say, I would like you to write a custom version of my resume that is perfectly attuned to this job description. And it gives me the maximum chance of being a fit for the role and obtaining an interview, which is the whole point of this, okay? So I want you to match the lingo, I want you to match keywords, key phrases, and I want you to maybe take out stuff that's irrelevant to this role. Like you can work on the prompt. You can create like a very long prompt if you want, or you could just create a short one and say go. And then it spits out a custom version of your resume that's tailored for that job. Okay? There are other things you can do too. You can say like, what are the top 10 soft skills that this employer would probably be looking for that job? Okay, so what are those? Take those, put them on the resume in a prominent place or something like that, right? So you can like add more and more directions to this, right? But that's how you do it. You just spits it out. And the more of this you do, the more sophisticated your prompts will get, obviously. But bam, there you go. Like in 2 minutes, you got your customized resume for whatever job. Okay? You want to apply to another one? Do the same thing again, right? It gives you the custom version of your resume. You copy the text, you paste it into a Word document or onto a web form or wherever they want it. And that's how you apply, right? So the reason you're doing this is because it's going through an applicant tracking system, right? It's where a human is not reading your resume. Instead, a computer is, and it's using AI filters to rank all the applications. And it appears to a recruiter almost like an email application where, you open up the inbox and you have like all the applications and they're ranked in order of the best match down to the worst match. So what the recruiter will probably do is they'll look at the top 10, top 20, with their eyes. They'll like actually look at your resume and look at your application, and then they'll decide who to bring in. So you want to get your application ranked towards the top. And the way to do that is to use these kinds of tools and this method to do that. So I would not recommend going to a resume writer to write your resume. I would recommend you doing this process or something similar to it in real time. Whenever you apply for a job, you create a custom version of your resume on demand that's tailored to that job. Bam, it goes off. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Ocean Sound said something about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a tool. It's an extremely useful tool still, if you know how to use it, and if you use it for specific purposes. I would not use it to apply for posted jobs. That's just me. I think it's a waste of time. Neither would I use it to connect to recruiters. I think that's a waste of time. I've always used it to connect to CEOs, executives, people in executive management, and get informational interviews, send your pitch, say, I'm here, I can do this, right? And what they'll do is they can forward it down to the decision maker that's appropriate in that organization. And when it comes down from the top, it carries a hell of a lot more weight than you starting at the bottom and trying to get it to be sent upwards to that person. Okay? That's how these things work. So I wouldn't just blanket poo-poo LinkedIn. LinkedIn sucks for certain things, but unfortunately, it still is a pretty damn good tool for certain other things. I hate what Microsoft has done with it. I think Microsoft, it's like King Midas in reverse. Everything they touch turns to crap. They buy up companies that are doing really well and that we like and we want to see succeed and take over, and then Microsoft kills them stone dead. They've always done this. I've been a fan of Bill Gates and some of the stuff they did in the early days, but they offered me a job back in the day, by the way. I've got a bit of a chip on my shoulder for Microsoft. I actually turned them down for a job in Seattle, as a developer. I can't remember, no, it was actually as a tester. A million years ago when I was just starting out, that's the way my career could have gone. So I got a bit of a chip on my shoulder, but they buy up so many things that I like and then they ruin them. And LinkedIn is no exception. They've been, every change they made to LinkedIn is made it worse. I think they just hailed the death of Skype, didn't they? There's another example of something that was awesome. Microsoft buys it, ruins it, and now it's dead. You know, great job. Kyle Quinnen says, I feel like 90% of the time I can't get a recruiter or hiring manager to respond to any messages of mine on LinkedIn. What do you suggest to fix that? Well, number one, make sure you're going to the right person, right? You may think you're going to the right person. Turns out you're not. Secondly, it's what you say. You know, there's a protocol for these things. There's things that people will respond to, and there's things that people won't respond to. And a lot of times, unless you've been taught this, you know, or you're extremely intuitive, which I'm not, people don't understand how bad they are in this department. They'll contact someone, start talking all about themselves, you know? It's like when you get spam email, it's usually from a company or a person you don't know, talking all about something that they're doing that you don't give a rat's ass about. Do you read those? Do you respond to them? No, right? So I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying that's what I've noticed a lot of young people do. I used to do that in the very early days. You know, people don't respond to that. That's not how you get a response, you know? That's not how you get them to pay attention to you. So there's a protocol for this. And no, I can't explain it in like 2 minutes because there's a lot of principles there. They're all stacked on top of each other. That's why I put them into that course. I need a course to lay this all out, you know? So often it involves people going to the wrong person. They think, I want to get a job. Who deals with jobs? Recruiters. So they go to a recruiter. Recruiters don't care about finding you a job. They are given jobs to fill by hiring managers. Recruiters are grunts. They're given a job to fill by a hiring manager, and their job is to find qualified candidates for those jobs. That's all, right? So they're not there to like help you. The odds of you being a perfect match for something that they have that's posted is very little, is very low. You know what I mean? So, and they don't really do stuff on the hidden job market. That's not where they operate. So they can't help you, you know? You know what I mean? So you can forget about messaging recruiters, in my opinion, and in my experience. Hiring managers, it's hit and miss. Usually the people in the middle are too busy to help you. Middle managers are busy, and it's not their job to respond to unsolicited queries from the public. That's not their job, right? So for those two reasons, it's hard to get a response from them. Executive managers, number one, it is their job to respond to unsolicited queries from the public. And number two, perhaps unintuitively, they actually have more free time to do this kind of thing than middle managers do. They have a lot more unstructured time to deal with things that come up than middle managers. So executive managers are the ones you want to contact. Now, there's a protocol contacting these people. Okay, once you learn the protocol, they'll take you seriously. And then if you say something that makes sense that they can do, they'll do it. Right? They're always looking for talented, passionate people to join their company. It's not their main thing, but they're always like kind of in the background. They're always on the lookout for that. So when they encounter those people, they don't have any problem in principle forwarding that down to the middle manager that would be the hiring manager to hire that person, you know? If ever you've seen a CEO or an owner or anybody like that that attends a job interview, that's why. They're always looking, they're always involved. Even if they're not directly involved, they're always indirectly involved in, you know, trying to snag talent when they see it, right? So you can take full advantage of that. It's just that you have to understand how these people think, understand the protocol for how to communicate with them, know what to ask for, right? Okay, so this is all doable. It's all perfectly straightforward. But a lot of people are never taught this. And what I found is a lot of people, especially young people, they have no patience or respect for this. They don't think it's a thing. They don't think it's a thing worth knowing. They think like, oh, why would I want to sell out and talk to people in suits, or whatever. It's like, so it's like, okay. That's what I've come across a lot. Okay, but that's the way in. It's really not that hard. It's if you know IT, if you know how to code and stuff, this is child's play compared to that. Okay. Ocean Sound. A lot of people post on LinkedIn just for show. I wouldn't rely on them. Oh, you're right about that. Yeah, I hate that. When you look at the LinkedIn feed, first of all, just like Facebook, it's no longer people a lot of the time. It's like professional posters, and it's this self-serving crap, Here's me at a conference. Ooh, aren't I professional? Here's me. Look, I just did this totally mundane, minor thing. Aren't I stunning and brave? And then just plain advertising for like companies. And then a delightful mix of misinformation about business concepts, about leadership, what a leader is, and they'll give you some absolute crap that's wrong, and maybe a little meme about it, right? Yeah, that's the slop that they have on there, and it's really disheartening. That's what dissuades me from going on there really anymore. Whenever I do, I encounter that stuff, and it's just so off-putting. So I agree with you there, Ocean Sound. I agree with you there. We can both unite in our hatred and calling out the ridiculousness of it all. A. Sharma says, thank you so much for your advice. It is very helpful. Well, that's great. I'm glad it's somewhat useful. A. Sharma, I wish you the best of luck. And if you have any more questions, I'm live Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Take my course if that would help you. Okay. Kyle Quinn says, what if the resume gets altered so much that it kind of looks like you're lying? Well, if it looks like you're lying, then you didn't alter your resume properly. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you're doing is like, look, I'll give you an example. The first job I ever got out of university was a supervisor role, right? Now, they didn't call it supervisor. They called it frontline manager, okay? So my official title was frontline manager, right? Now, the problem is that if you put that on a resume, you say, oh, I'm a frontline manager. Anyone, like a recruiter or a machine that's scanning your resume, they're scanning for the word supervisor. Do you have supervisor experience? Because we're hiring for a supervisor, right? And if you haven't used the term supervisor, but instead you keep using the term frontline manager, it says, oh, you have no supervisory experience, so I'm sorry, you don't qualify. You see? Like, it's a matter of matching the lingo, because they're in the business world, there's very few standardized terms out there, surprisingly, for things. Even in the world of accounting, some people talk about profit, some people talk about net income. Like, there is no consensus on what you call it out in the wild. You get people doing both. So when they create filters for scanning resumes and stuff, they tend to use the lingo that they happen to use at that organization, which may be different from the lingo you used on your resume, right? So that's why you're doing things like keyword matching. All you're asking the AI to do, the chat GPT and generative AI to do, is to just translate what you have into the lingo that they're using so it matches. And then keep more of the details about the stuff they said they were looking for, and have less of the stuff that you've done that they haven't indicated they're looking for, so that you seem much more of a fit. So if it seems like you're lying, there's something wrong. You shouldn't be sending in a resume that looks like it's totally somebody else's resume. You know what I mean? Rain in the Deep. That's good. There's a nice coherent handle for a change. That's awesome. I like your handle. What do you do when you don't have as much experience as other applicants? You shoot yourself. And then you hang yourself. Listen, everybody starts somewhere. And when people start, they have no experience. And then they get experience. And then when you get to be an old, miserable bastard like me that people don't want to work with because you're so set in your ways, that's when you have a lot of experience. You also don't have any energy either to do stuff. Whereas young people have incredible energy, you know? It's okay. It's really okay. This is a big topic. In terms of being qualified for a job, okay, there are several ways you can spin this. Let's say they said, we're looking for someone with 5 years experience in whatever it is, right? But you only have one, okay? You can say, okay, well, listen, I know I only have one, and I know you guys are looking for 5. But here's what I will say, okay? In my 1 year experience, I've already handled pretty much every scenario that you can handle in this line of work. And the people that I work with all have 20 years of experience. And I'm doing the same work that they're doing, and I don't need their help. I don't need their advice. I'm holding my own, doing the same work that they're doing. Also, for what it's worth, they've shared a lot of their wisdom, a lot of their learning with me, you know, so stuff that they've built up over 20 years doing this, they've shared that with me, and I've learned a lot of it through osmosis. And so I feel like even though I only have 1 year experience, I have the equivalent of at least 5 years experience in this role in terms of my effectiveness. And I can provide references to my coworkers to back that up if you want to pursue that. You know, so you can sort of spin it a bit to a degree. Okay? The second thing is that so far today, I've been live for a couple hours, and I've been talking a lot about the hidden job market and, you know, how you get hired in the hidden job market. You know, when you reach out to companies and stuff like that, the thing that gets you hired is two things. Number one, you're not getting hired on the strength of your resume. That's not what gets you hired. What gets you hired is when they meet you and they have a conversation with you and they can see that you know your stuff. You know, like they can tell you get it. You've obviously done that job and you know the ins and outs of that job. And so they go, okay, I feel like you can handle this job, you know? That's the first thing. The second thing is that you're the only one that showed up. You're the only one that showed passion and initiative to reach out to them. So that counts for a lot too. You know, you may have a certain amount of skills and education and experience, but, you know, and there might be other people that might have more of that, but you're the one that's super passionate about working here in that role. And you have shown off your soft skills. You're very easy to get along with. You're very likable. You've got a lot of personal charisma. And, you know, you're clearly passionate about doing the work. And that counts for a lot. That's what they're looking for. So those are all game changers that can help compensate for perhaps a little bit less, you know, of the technical requirements like experience, right? You know, is it the be all end all that'll always, you know, compensate for it? No, but it often can count for a lot. Okay, so there's like that's part of that. Alex says, hello, sir. GPT is top notch. I've collaborated with him and he created me apps. It has potential. Like Chat GPT you're talking about, or just GPT in general? Yeah, I mean, like it or not, that's kind of like what everyone has decided. They've decided that AI is the future and things are going to be automated that way going forward. Right now, it's still kind of in its infancy. There's a lot of potential there. I find it mind-numbingly stupid for certain things, but pretty damn amazing for others. Like, it's very hit and miss, but it's definitely a useful tool. So there's no question, like this is the future. And, all of us, like it or not, we're going to have to get familiar with it. Just like when the internet came in. A lot of you guys are probably too young. I lived through that. Like, exactly what is happening with AI is what happened with the internet. Most people put their fingers in their ears and just kind of pretended it didn't exist until it was too late, Some people kind of embraced it and got a head start, because they were familiar with it. And those are the ones that ended up winning out. I would say if you've never used AI or any of that stuff, ChatGPT is kind of the way in. I mean, Grok is good too. Gemini on Google is also good, but for me personally, I'm more familiar with ChatGPT, and I think it's fantastic. So definitely a useful tool. So get in and learn it and see what it can do for you. Okay. Alex says, nowadays I am using it to learn how to code and to implement code. Okay, good. Ocean Sound says, you did explain this before. You said employers are looking at your demeanor and personality by viewing if you are not hard to get along with. Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point of interviews, right? Now, if ever you get a chance in your lifetime to be on the other side of the table, which a lot of you will, you'll understand that. You know what I mean? Like, if you actually need an assistant or you need an employee to do whatever for you, you're offloading your own stuff to an employee, to someone you're hiring. You'll see the importance of like asking the salary question, like what motivates you to do that. It's pretty damn important. And also this stuff, like your personality, your demeanor, and your charisma, you'll see how important that is. You do not want to work with someone who just, they're kind of giving you really bad vibes and they're just kind of weird and you don't really click and they seem upset and, they're really not happy to be here and stuff like that. That's not usually a good sign. That's the sign that things are going to go downhill pretty quickly if you hire this person, Now the opposite, if you hire someone that's super charismatic and stuff, does it always work out? No, it doesn't. But usually if you hire someone that's giving off all kinds of red flags about their personality and about, their soft skills and all this kind of stuff and their communication skills, that's pretty much almost guaranteed to not work out. That's the thing. Rain in the Deep says, that's helpful. Good. Awesome sauce. Okay, there are 12 people here. Let me know if you guys have any more questions, and I'll be happy to try and answer them to help you out the best of my ability. If I don't get any more questions, and we've reached the end of the feed, if I don't get any more, then I'll have to wind this down. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for more questions to roll on in, check out my courses. I've talked about this one. This is if you're finding it hard to get a job, you don't understand what you need to do to get a job, you don't understand where the jobs are or how to put yourself forward for them or how to present yourself, check out that course. That's got all my advice in one place about how to do this. It also has my recommendations for how you get hired in the hidden job market, stuff I've done time and time again that, that work, and it's tailored for introverts like myself. You don't enjoy cold calling. You don't enjoy, schmoozing with people or going down to events and things like this. That's not what you're interested in doing, and nor do you have to do that. Thanks to the internet and social media, you can do 90% of this stuff from home. And just like job searching, you can do it from home. You don't have to physically go down and apply in person if you don't want to. You still can do that, by the way, and it's effective, but you don't have to, is the point. So that shows you how to do that for the hidden job market. Alternatively, if you want to work on your soft skills, your communication skills, check out that course, Write Like a Professional. That's where I put everything I learned about communication skills when I started my career, started out as a supervisor, all the way till I ended my career as a CEO. Everything I'd learned in the interim about communication skills, I put into that course. So if you're interested in learning that, check it out. What that'll do is that'll make you a contender if you want to be seen as someone that should be promoted at work, or if you want to move into management. Okay, so if that's you and you're specifically looking for that, that'll show you how that works, and it gives you the skills to be able to qualify for that. Alternatively, if you want to learn business, like I said before, business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's what it is. Very, very useful thing to know for a variety of reasons. Number one, to manage your own money so you don't piss it away. Number two, to understand, decisions that, can have different payoffs, like what job to get or what thing to do, or, what financial decision to make, things like this. That tells you that. And also, if you want to learn how to work for yourself, be an entrepreneur, generate income directly without needing an agent to do it for you, like an employer, right? To turn your value directly into cash. That's what entrepreneurship is. Get that course. If you want to be in business, learn business. The other thing it'll do is that if you work in a job, it'll help you understand your employer. It'll help you understand what's important to your employer, what's not really important to your employer, how they think, what they pay attention to, that kind of stuff. So check out that course. Links to all of these in the description box below this live stream. And for every course of the 3, I've done a corresponding video that describes the course, so you know how it works, you know what you get, and so forth. So check that stuff out. Ocean Sound, I'm writing a book series right now. I'd love to get your course anyhow. Okay. Cool. What's your book series? I'm just curious. Is it like fiction, or is it like a business book or something like that? Kyle Quinn says, how long do you stream for? I stream for as long as I damn well please. I stream on these days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I usually have 2 streams per day. My local time, which is Central Time in North America, I start at noon for the first one, and they start at 2 p.m. for the second one. And I can go from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours on both. So it varies. It depends on, like, Honest HR Nitrous, this stream, I'm just here answering your questions. So if I get questions, I stay longer. If I don't really get any questions, then I don't stick around, right? So that's kind of a factor. But there you go. That's my thing. Check out my other YouTube channels. I have Companies Expert 2 and the Companies Expert 3. This one's for job seekers. This one's for like business and entrepreneurship. And yeah. So I'll be live next on Friday. 2 streams on Friday. Now on Fridays, the first stream talks about business topics. So it's not talking about how to get a job. That's not what it's about. It's about some business topic. I can't remember what we're slated to do this week, but it's like leadership and management skills. On Mondays, the first stream I do is about entrepreneurship. So side hustles, starting your own business, that kind of stuff, that whole world. So that's what we talk about there. It's not about getting a job, it's about starting a business. But the second stream every day is always like a Q&A. So it's all good. Ocean Sound says, it is a non-fiction. Don't want to scare you, but it's about the spiritual realm. Okay. So like the astral plane on this, like level 9 kind of stuff. Okay. Okay. Well, that could be cool, depending on how you do it. I'm not one of these people that thinks that, it's just pure sciences that matter and that's it. Like human beings are very complicated and, very, not just complex, but very sweet, kind of beautiful creatures. There's all kinds of nuances and all kinds of, things that we're capable of, even just like if you learn about different personality types, right? That's something that I've had to pay attention to in the past, like running a company, running an organization, or just running a team. You've got different personality types. So like that's one kind of variable, right? And then you have different backgrounds, people that came up through sales, or people that came up through operations, or, they have a background in accounting, or they have a background in, like the skill trades, or, whatever. So like that's another variable. And then you've got just differences in people beyond your personality. People, have different lifestyles and different opinions and things like this. And so, just the permutations, just like the combinations of different types of people you can get. Now, where this is important in business is obviously because if you are leading a team composed of all these different types of people, and you have to communicate with them, you have to try and persuade them, you have to motivate them, it's going to be quite different how you motivate one person versus how you motivate another person. And all of us, we tend to get along very well and communicate very well with people who are exactly like us, right? It's not that hard to get along with people who are exactly like us. It's not that hard to work well with someone who's just like us. What really takes talent is being able to communicate well with people who are not like you. You're an introvert, they're an extrovert. You don't care about sports or music or art or anything. That's all they care about. You have a certain communication style, very technical, this kind of thing. They have a completely different communication style, very intuitive, very emotional. It's based on feel. You make decisions based on facts. They make the decision based on mood and emotion, right? So if you have to work with these people and you have to interoperate between them, it takes a lot of skills to be able to, interoperate with these people who are not like you. And there's so many different types of people, that's where it gets interesting. So there's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of different ways of looking at things. And what I've learned in my life is that when I was in my 20s, I thought I knew it all. Turns out I didn't know jack. And then you fail a few times, and then you learn that you don't know it all. And then you start opening your mind and actually learning things, being open to things. And then you realize that a lot of people that you didn't respect before, because they're different than you, they take a different approach. It's like they actually kind of have their stuff together when it comes to certain things that you could learn a lot from, so you develop a healthy respect for that. That's what I learned. So I don't know much about the astral plane or spiritual realm, but I'm not just dismissing it out of hand. Anyway, I think we've reached the end of this chat for today. Thank you for the people that are here. There's 16 people here. You guys are awesome. I'll be back on Friday. Until then, best of luck. Keep your chin up. Something I didn't mention is that being between jobs sucks. And it makes us feel like this tall. And, enduring that amount of rejection while simultaneously you have to also appear the most confident, like you're on top of your game when you're not. It's really trying. If that's you, don't worry about it. You're normal if you're feeling that stuff. It's temporary. One day it's just going to end like that, okay? And in a way that you can't quite picture right now, okay? So you're going to be fine. I'll be back on Friday if you have any more questions. Oh, somebody says, why do employers post ghost jobs? Okay, I'll say this and then I'll be it. Several reasons. One is to signal that they're growing, that they're successful, right? Because their masters are watching. Their masters are owners and investors. Okay, and they're paying attention to those indicators, right? So if you want to maintain an image of being successful and that you're growing, you post jobs to make it look like you're hiring. Now, hopefully you are growing and you are hiring, but if you're not and you want to try and persuade everyone that you are, you post jobs even though there's no real job at the end of it. and it makes it look like you're successful. That's to a degree. That's one reason. Another reason is that they're, on the nefarious side, they're complete scams. It's an attempt to steal your personal information. Another reason is a company's doing market research, right? Or industrial espionage. I've been on both sides of that before. Your competitor wants to know how much you're paying your people. They post a job, they interview your people, and then ask them directly, how much do you make? And your people just tell them. And then now they know, right? There is no job. It was just a ploy to get that information, right? So there's a variety of things going on there. Some of them, the other harmless thing in the background is that the recruiter posts a job, maybe fills the job on, say, the 5th day, but then leaves the job posting up, right? So it just sits there. There was a job, but it's over now, but it still looks like that job is available. So that's another thing that's going on too. Okay, so for all those reasons and more, you see them. That's why they're there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, I will see you guys on Friday. Take care of yourselves. Best of luck.